I absolutely love Kensui products, and I've had almost nothing negative to say about any product of theirs that I've ever reviewed on the channel. And that's why it pains me to say I have some issues with the Kensui FID Bench Max. Let's get into it. And real quick, thanks to Kensui for sending this out for review. If you want to check out the link down in the description, it will help out the channel at no additional cost to you. First, the positive. This thing is built like a freaking tank. This thing is beefy. I don't know exactly what gauge steel they're using. It's not listed on the product page, but I can say it is thick, it is stout, and they list on the website that it has a weight capacity of 1,000 pounds. And for the main frame, I have no doubt that it could live up to that claim. But for the headrest, I have my doubts. But put a pin in that, we'll come back to that part. Aesthetically, the bench looks great. The logo on the pad looks awesome. And the total pad length is 50.5 inches. The back pad length is 20.5 inches. The head pad length is 11.75 inches. The seat pad length is 12 inches, and the pad width is 12 inches. The overall bench length is 50.75 inches. The width of the rear foot is 23.5 inches. The height to the top of the pad is 17.5 inches to fit within powerlifting standards. And the pad thickness is 2 inches. Speaking of the pad does feel very nice. It's got some give to it, but it's not squishy. It's kind of a Goldilocks. It feels just right. It has a single front foot design for those who like to get their feet in close when benching. And it has a nice, sizable, knurled handle that feels really good. Like, this feels like it could be a barbell. If you want to see more reviews like this, consider subscribing. The bench weighs 90 pounds, but the felt weight isn't that bad, and it's relatively easy to maneuver around. And you have to get the foot approximately 6 inches off the ground, and you can see that it is off and moving. So easy to maneuver around the gym. For the seat, we have 0, 15, and 30 degree adjustment points. And for the back, we have -8, -6, -4, 0, and then from 15 all the way to 90 in 15 degree increments. And I know there's a great debate on what the correct top setting is. Some people say it's 90, some people say it's 85. Personally, I used to be in the 90 camp. I've since changed my mind and I'm in the 85 camp, but this one is at 90. So for those of you who think that it should be truly vertical at the top setting, you can rejoice. And speaking of overhead pressing, that is one of the benefits of this bench, the folding headrest. So you simply unscrew this little side knob, pull the pop pin, and then you can flip this down out of the way. And now it's a half back bench for overhead pressing and tricep extensions. And then we'll put a pin in that again. We're gonna come back to the headrest here in a bit, but the vinyl feels absolutely amazing. It is extremely grippy, very premium. And one of the really nice things about this pad that I've not noticed in other benches, hadn't even really considered this before, there's a little bit of a bevel to it. As you get close to the edge, instead of having a hard edge, it just has that slight rounding to the pad, and it feels really nice, especially on the seat pad. However, one thing that does cause is, because there's a bevel with this pad and a bevel with this pad, it does make a little bit of a crater right here. And when I first put this thing together and I saw that gap, I was like, ooh, I am not gonna like that when I'm benching. And for the first couple of sets, I didn't, because my shoulders would hit right in that gap and I could feel it and I didn't like it. But surprisingly, as particular as I am about those sorts of things, after having used this bench for approximately 100 sets of bench or so, I stopped noticing it pretty quickly, actually. And it really doesn't bother me. The first couple of sets, I would be very careful with how I line myself up so that I wouldn't land my shoulders in the gap. But after that, I really just haven't noticed it for weeks and weeks now. So unless you're just super particular, I don't think you'll really notice it or care that much. And if you do think that it will bother you and you just would rather not have the gap from the head pad, do note that Kensui also sells an FID Bench Pro in addition to the FID Bench Max, and the Pro does not have the separate head pad. It's all one pad on the back pad. And here is where we're gonna come back and spend a lot of time talking about this head pad. As I mentioned a moment ago, it can fold entirely out of the way for exercises like overhead presses and tricep extensions, but it also has 1, 2, 3, 4 settings that it can be set as a support pad for exercises like chest supported rows, rear delt flies, preacher curls, and various other exercises. Now here's the part that I don't love. The execution for the head pad / chest support pad does not match the vision. Because of it using this pop pin style adjustment, it's only supported on one side. And not only that, there's a pretty good bit of play, as you can see, between the pin and the hole that the pin slots into. And you could say, well, Ryan, just tighten down the screw knob on the pop pin, and you would be right. But even if you screw down the pop pin screw as tight as it'll go, it still moves, and I'm barely putting any pressure on it whatsoever. And not only that, by the time you have to unscrew the pin, pop the pin, move it to where you want it, screw it down again, it's slower and less secure than if you were to just use a pin that you pull out and slot back in that fits across both sides. Now, to be clear, for most people, this probably will never be an issue. However, if you are a very heavy, muscular individual and you're using really heavy weight on chest supported rows, I'm not so sure that I would trust this little bitty pin to hold me up. Another thing that I'm not crazy about, this bench does technically store vertically. However, because there are no wheel guards on this bench, there's nothing to prevent it from rolling, so it has a tendency to want to separate when stored vertically. You can see just a little bit of a bump and it will start rolling. And this can be solved very easily by just putting wheel guards so that the wheels disengage once it's stored vertically. And the final negative is that it uses a standard ladder design, whereas a lot of benches nowadays are moving towards a design that has a square tube underneath to provide an attachment point for accessories, like the Freak Athlete ABX, the Rogue Manta Ray, the Rep Blackwing, the Iron Master Super Bench, and many others. And I understand that not every piece of equipment has to be a Swiss Army knife. Sometimes a bench can just be a bench. But I bring it up because it is $699. So it's in upper premium price territory, which means expectations are high. At $699, the FID Bench Max is $100 more than both the Rep Blackwing and the Freak Athlete ABX. That's why this review is so painful to make, because I like Kensui a lot. As I said earlier, I've reviewed several of their products and rarely have anything negative to say about them. Kensui usually nails the details, and this bench does a lot right. But for 700 bucks, you've gotta be nearly perfect. I really do love this bench, but the issues with the head pad, the vertical storage, and the lack of expandability make it hard for me to give this bench an easy yes. Now, if Kensui tweaks the adjustment mechanism for the head pad, adds some wheel guards, and maybe even adds a square tube underneath for accessories, then this thing shoots up nearly to the top of the list again. Now, it is important to note that the FID Bench Pro, which doesn't have the adjustable head pad, is $100 cheaper at $599. So if you don't care about this head pad anyway, you can check that one out and save $100, which then puts you in line with benches like the Rep Blackwing and the Freak Athlete ABX. And again, if you do want to purchase this bench, there's a link down in the description. It gives me a commission, so it helps out the channel at no additional cost to you. And thanks to Kensui for sending this out for review. Hopefully they don't hate me and quit sending me stuff for review because of this one, because I really do love their stuff. I can't state that enough, but my responsibility is to you guys, the viewers. I have to give you honest feedback because you're spending a lot of money on this equipment. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next week. And real quick, thanks to Kensui for sending us out too.